Friends and professionals, we are live back with another episode of the Modern Lending Podcast. I'm your host, Alec Hanson. It is awesome to be with you here today. Man, if you have been tuning in to this season, we have been going all in on tactics, trying to figure out what's working today. What are the best and brightest in the lending world doing today to manage the down cycle? For many of us, this is your first down cycle. Welcome. It's a roller coaster. Ted Lawler is joining me today from Pennsylvania. This guy has 20 plus years in the business. He's an absolute stellar contributor to the mortgage space, and we're going to rap about it today. So buckle up. Ted, welcome, buddy. Oh, let's get your camera going. Is it black for you, Ted? Okay, I got you black on here. Let's just turn your camera off and on really quick and see if it kicks it out. We were in the green room 2 seconds before everybody, and his camera was working just fine. So I don't know what's going on. Let me get my little tech support in the room here.
All right, I hit the stop cam. I got black on my side now.
Yep, and come on live.
How'd that go?
You're still black to me, but can you see your own screen?
Unfortunately, yes, I can. Should I leave the studio and come back in?
Give it a try.
All right, give me 1 second. Hold on, guys.
All right, friends. Well, Ted jumps out this season, and we've had some incredible leaders on the stage here. We've got some producers all across the country, and everything we're focusing on in season 5 is tactics. And so as Ted comes back in here, if you look back on the previous episodes, I did go outside my window. I've only been doing loan officers and people in the street. So I did break that out a little bit and bring in Gary Vaynerchuk. So I apologize. But if anyone's going to talk about tactics, man, Gary is the absolute king of that world. And so Ted today, 20 plus years experience in mortgage and lending, leading a team and driving contemporary origination strategies. The guy's going to bring it today. So I'm really excited. So thank you guys for joining us today. We're going to give him a couple more seconds to kind of cue back in. But I want to give a quick shout out while we're waiting on the bright side. So if you have not seen on my YouTube channel, on all the social platforms except for TikTok, I launched a series called The Bright Side, in which we are diving into the great things happening in mortgage lending and real estate. So please take a look, share, give me some feedback, and I see we got him back in. So Ted, there you are, brother. I got you live and clear now on my video, so we're good.
Well, sorry for the future therapy you'll be taking on that, my man.
This is the best part about going live is you just get to deal with all this fun stuff. So we're rocking. All right, so Ted, while you were away, I was telling all the amazing things you've done in your career, all the great milestones you've covered. So I was right, though, right? How many years in the business?
Yeah, 20 plus.
Yeah, okay. So you put the time in.
I did.
And how does this down cycle in your mind compare to others that you've gone through?
Yeah, so this is probably number 3 for me. Obviously the 2008 to 2011, that certainly created a lot of havoc on that. And then I think there was a bit of a shortage in the mid 2016 to 2018, where there was, that was like the first signs that at least we saw in our market, there was a little bit of an inventory challenge. And I think anytime that you saw that type of fluctuation in rate or.
Oh, we lost Ted again. Mikey, help him out, buddy. Send him a note. I don't know what happened there. So we'll give him a few seconds. But back to the bright side content. I would really appreciate you all diving in, supporting the content. It's a 10-minute deal designed to bring some positivity. All right.
Sorry about that. No. I just got kicked out of the studio, so obviously I didn't pay my bill. Sorry about that. I think we, my team and I've talked, ad nauseum about the difference between this down cycle period compared to the recession, of the one that we saw in the early 2000s, and and the difference is, for us is, inventory was robust at that time. So lenders and realtors in that area, when they knew what they were doing, either by experience or putting in the extra effort, it allowed them to either get through, or for some of us, we actually were more successful that time.
That's right.
Than in the previous refinance run prior to it.
Yep. So for those that are tuning in, by the way, if you're live with us today, please ask questions. You're welcome to dive in. Obviously, the goal of this series, this season, is to get tactical, not high level, but right down in the earth of what's going on. So, Ted, tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing, your team's doing, to drive origination strategies in this down cycle.
Yeah. So the first thing that we did when we saw the beginning of kind of the turn, and it was almost last November was when there was, and listen, I don't think the wheels came off. I don't think the wheels are off. I do think
Yeah,
that the idea of doing the same thing over and over again when the climate is chronically different.
I love that.
I don't say it would, I don't say it, I wouldn't say it's insane, but I would say it's foolish, right?
Mm.
And so, I think like anything that we did, the first part of this um, was really to create awareness. What are your numbers? What are your stats? In my background before lending was behavioral, science. So for me, being a former shrink was always a great thing, right? And so the important stuff is, what are the steps that you're making to be able to have more ownership of your day and more ownership of your life?
Yes.
And I've seen people do that had chronic mental illness, and the idea of bringing those, that statistical approach over to lending, I think it takes away the false generalizations that we all have. Like 2 years ago, we were just order takers; loans were falling from the sky. You know, 2 years ago, we were inundated with volume, and quality and customer
Totally.
service were grossly impacted.
Yeah.
So what we really do for our team is that because a lot of people are going through this together, thank goodness. The collaboration has never been so strong, and so we add in a boot camp typically on 12 weeks. We do it off hours at 7 a.m. in the morning. Nothing is mandatory, but the people that are there really begin to collaborate, and we try to take a couple themes from that group, implement that for the next 6 days, and then run the stats and look at success and challenges on day 7, which is the following Wednesday.
Okay, so I want to stay on that this one strategy for a second, because we have a question come in from Overland Van who says, "Hey, I'm a loan officer. What can I do to generate leads from realtors?" And we're going to kind of pivot into this whole thing, Ted, because this boot camp thing, this concept. Walk us through one. What was the strategy you guys just deployed on one?
Yeah, I would love to take credit for it, since I falsely typically do. When I had the opportunity of coming in, my mentor was Robert Sensi, and he and I became great friends before I had the opportunity of getting into this business. And coming from a social worker and a corporate medical background into straight dog eat dog sales was odd for me, right?
Yeah.
I never had to let crazy in. They typically would knock at my door, right? Yep. And the idea of going hunting and fishing, since I was neither, did make a lot of sense to me. And he said, fine. He's like, the first thing that you got to do is you got to get a coach.
Yep.
And they'll determine if you're coachable. And so I went to a coach who was background in Sandler. And the idea was, and again, I think when you have a behavioral science background, you get to see what people are doing.
Yeah.
But if you get to see what people are doing and why they're doing it, and then you also believe in it, it fortifies that belief even more. So his idea is that if you really want to be in the top 1%, I'll see you in my office for 12 weeks every Monday morning at 6 a.m. And I was just like, oh, Kobe Bryant, right? I'm like, here we go. Like, I know this.
Buckle
right?
Up.
And, we had, at that point, we had 1.5 children, right? So I was up anyway. So 6 a.m. for me was great. But the idea is that those people in that room that were there were unbelievably different than his afternoon group. And he would talk about why my mentor said that he wanted me in the 6 a.m. group. And it really was kind of like, whoever's going to show up is going to play up. And that really is a kind of model that we have. It's also a good thing because we're not doing it during normal banking hours. I think, typically what a loan officer does, or a producer of any sorts, those banking hours, are prime time from that 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Absolutely.
What I want to do as a supportive leader is I don't want to impact their day. If they need me, they'll reach out. If they can't make the meeting because something is more important, i.e. Income producing activity, there's no offense to that. And I think the more that you have people that are going to buy in, that aren't forced to buy in, it creates a culture where more people want to participate in. And I'm no longer just a leader. I'm an active participant as well.
So what was one of the topics you guys executed on?
Yeah. Okay. So recently I changed coaching platforms. I was Sandler based, as I said before. Had to speak to a couple phenomenal colleagues on the East Coast and dip my toes in the core training.
Yeah.
And it's and listen, I think for those that do it, it's a phenomenal thing. I've got a little bit of issue with authority, so I made certain. I'm like, listen, I don't want to be fined. I don't want to be yelled at. However, I do like significant and constant accountability. because I'm always not my own best friend. And
Sure.
so the idea of creating assignments and doing those things and fulfilling those tasks, and I do like to show my homework.
Yeah.
I would love to have the ego strength to stand on my own and handle that stuff. No, if I'm going
agree.
around third, I don't mind the pat on the ass, right? I mean, that's
Yep.
that's just who I am.
Yep.
And so what we did is we derived one of the basics of the core themes of the 5 days of the week is they implement themes for each day.
Yep.
And as something as simple as that, and as something that always track their stats, I started laughing because that's something that I didn't do or think of, and I didn't value, and it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't a big of a deal. Until it became an impactful deal.
Yeah.
And I think one of the areas that everybody, I shouldn't speak. One of the areas that I have struggled with in my business is that, am I an employer? Am I a business owner?
Sure.
Right.
Good comment.
And the idea of becoming a business owner, which I would like to do, your behaviors and thoughts and actions are different, and then the things that you measure are the different. It's not just the amount of loans that you're going to schlep in. You're going to look at your P&L and you're going to exhaust a sigh of relief that you could pay your monthly light bill. It's, how am I going to make a seismic impact on the community, and how am I going to take a commission focus, I'm only as good as my last deal false mentality, and make it into a viable business strategy where more people are going to either want to be part of it or want to be able to utilize it. So those themes really kind of came into that, and it wasn't as much as the theme of the day. It was actually the definition of the term theme. Like, hey, this week we're going to go out and we're going to ask your exclusive or your A realtors for one strong introduction to another colleague that they think would benefit from your services. And here's the script, and here's what that looks like.
Yeah, so that's a fun tactic, Ted. So that's for the next 10, 15 minutes here. Let's really get into the meat here on what, like, the actions that you're supporting, and let's just start with from your experience, right? You got 20 plus years. Let's go through the hierarchy of it. Like today, I walk into your office. What's the number one thing I'm doing on X day? What's the number two thing I'm doing? And what do you see the results or the actions and these loan officers are taking?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think, I think when I was younger, and I had an opportunity as an RVP to oversee an area, I think I was, looking back, I think I was much more emphatic and assertive about what I thought somebody should do. And I think now that I got, I have no hair, so I don't even have gray hair. I would love gray hair.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
Oh, dude, please don't stop. That is Cher's hair compared to this. I don't even hear it. But I think really what the approach that I've taken differently this time, especially with this team, which just the group of people I can't express enough how fantastic they are. I really kind of asked them. I'm like, I know what the end result is, right? Because you want to be well off, you want to be financially free, all that, but what's really important to you, and where do you think your strengths and limits are, and where can I help, rather than me just, force feeding you what I think you should do because it's what I did in a market that was catastrophically different.
Absolutely.
Let's stop here and just kind of do much more of like a diagnosis of what's making you tick and what's making you work, and how can we build on that? A lot of times I think lenders, when they're not in the best mindset, which, let's just say it's 51% of the time weekly, they're not always their best friend, and they're not always, and they're looking at a conversation that they're having with somebody different than they're having with a person that might be able to generate revenue from them.
Yep.
And I think the goal is, what we really want to do, especially with your referral partners, or other referral partners, or each other, most importantly, is how are you going to humanize that relationship? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can ask for the business. Here's all these takeaways, going for the no, struggling sales pitch, how to win friends and influence people, which by the way, it's a Bible. But there's one of the common denominators that I think a lot of us have in these part is that, if we're going to look simply at realtors as well, here's a community that's hurting too. Here's a community that didn't plan for this. Yep. Here's a community that, and the funny part is, where we can, I think, be of great assistance to our realtor partners is coaching them or helping them, working on soliciting other realtors' impression of them, so that when they put an offer in, they know that they're part of it. And I think, and I think, again, I think when you begin to start with your own faults, your own challenges that you're having, it levels the playing field for people to get, I'm going to sound like the real world. I can't believe it, but people are going to get really, really honest about where they are and where they need to go. And I think when you get to that level of trust and culture,
Yeah.
it allows you to really do profound work in a very minute amount of time,
Yeah.
because the BS is left.
Yep.
Like I've been pondering this for a while, and I'm around Philly, so I can't talk too much about the Super Bowl without my tires getting cut, right? But no one's talking about the halftime speech that Andy Reid from the Chiefs must have had with his team, right? And the only way that speech was serious enough is because they had to look at the surroundings of where they were in and how they got there. But I'm confident that at some point that's going to come out and that's going to be a game changer. And regardless of the outcome of the game,
Yeah.
the idea of being down and out and having a moment to pause and be like, listen, let's regroup here and see what this looks like. And I think, I don't think I think, for the other supporting leaders out there in our industry, I don't think our job has ever been more challenging, but respectfully, I also don't think it's ever been more rewarding.
Yeah. So Ted, you said something really that I want to go back to that I thought was really important. You talked about how, at least what I interpreted was, this multiple ways to skin the cat concept. There's different personalities, different personality types, and coming in and being prescriptive, saying go see 5 realtors a day or go cold call these, tends to kind of, bump against people's personality styles, their preferences, and they don't tend to be that effective. So, do you have a strategy on how you find what works for certain people and how do you pull that out from them?
Yeah. Well, yes and no, right? So, what's great about, having a very intimate relationship with your team and back and forth is you get to know their vibes and you get to know, what their likes and dislikes are. And then, you can almost kind of self-evaluate why you like them and why they're such an important part of that team. And I think when you can talk about that, so for instance, if we have a single parent on the team, is there a way to be able to promote, family strength and what that looks like and however, and then is your brand going to be outside of that stuff? So, or we've got another member on the team who's heavily involved in youth sports.
Yeah.
So then how are you going to bridge that out? I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be able to support a phenomenal amount of people that individually are, as much as they're employees, they're just as much close friends. And,
Yeah.
I have a hard time working with people that I don't like. And luckily I don't have that problem. And so the idea of talking to them and help kind of pull what's the very, very best for them, because I would want to work with them as if I was on the other side of a transaction. And it's really kind of gets down to, and then you've got the candidness where, like one of the things that we were speaking about is a post that Stan sent out last week on Duncan's quote about right now, there's probably a greater opportunity to land more top producing realtors than ever before because there's also some uncertainty for them. And so the idea of landing them, fine, like maybe they're more likely to say yes. Okay, so they say yes. What the hell are you going to do with them?
Yeah.
Because they might just say yes because there might be a moment of desperation in theirs.
Yeah, but, absolutely. And they're like, yeah, sure, of course.
Right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know I'm taking more spam calls on purpose right now because I'm looking for activities, right? So I think the idea of, again, is breaking down that follow up. You don't have to be naturally good at sports to be great at sports.
I agree.
Maxwell puts in the 10,000 hours. You can be great at anything. I'm living proof of that stuff. I grew up with the significant and profound speech impediment, and now I'm talking to you across the coast, right? Like it's practice does it does make the process better, and the idea of breaking it down, I just think, is really important. And having and leaving the assumptions to the side and saying, like, listen, let's talk about your delivery. Let's look at what that let's look at what that email script says. And I mean, in the basics of finding to tune that stuff, because all that plays a part to me.
You said something interesting though, Ted, that I want to get your thoughts on as a leader and as a producer and a performer. Sales is hard. So let me start there. Like, it's just hard. And to be great at sales is very hard. And in that journey, sometimes you have the market helping you, the wind at your back, and sometimes the wind's in your face. And, that's kind of what we're facing today. So, and you bring up, speech impediment. Obviously that took a lot of courage to drive it through. How do you coach into, and how do you help loan officers break through these hardships of our business and life and everything else? What do you lean on?
Well, I mean, sadly, it usually starts with self-deprecation, right? I think I had the opportunity. I'll just do a quick rant. I had the opportunity of working for a mega producer a couple years ago at Wells, and I was a humbly number 2 in the office. And when I tell you that I was far away from that person's volume, the term light year comes to mind. Right? And but he was a great colleague, and we would talk about brainstorming about the team and what that would look like. And finally, he's like, I don't get it. None of these people are doing what I do to do the numbers that I do. And and I kind of had to, and I was, for the first time ever, I actually paused and didn't say anything, because Lord knows I'm making up for lost time when I was younger, right? Yeah, that'll come back to haunt me.
Yeah.
We talked about that he was so far away that people couldn't even fathom to even get a third of his numbers or a tenth of their numbers, right? And it's almost like a unicorn effect. Like, the reason why it's so mystical is because there's not one, so why try to be one, right? Well, and where I said, and again, it's the same reason why when our kids ran a 5K or whatever, don't worry about winning the race. Just catch the guy in front of you and see what they're doing. And I think that latter approach, I think, really, really does help. And I think, the idea of getting through this market, I think, really starts down. I think and again, I think getting through it is for me is a great term.
Yes.
It's and I think the opportunity to be able to build up your book of business when it's easier to gain an appointment, it's easier to get an advantage. You now have more time to impact the customer experience. I think for a lot of us, we're finally getting back into work shape.
Yes, agreed. I like that.
And I think the past couple of years have derailed a lot of those stuff. And and for me, again, leading by example, or remaining positives and doing the steps and showing where and sharing the other successes of other people on the team and crossbreeding that.
Yes.
It's where it, because again, when you're fortunate enough to have people that are driven and that successful, you get to highlight other people's successes. So when somebody went from minimal credit pulls to having a record month and being number 1 on the team, that's a highlight. And then you get your bigger producers that are going to call you and say, what the hell do you think they're doing? And I'm like, well, maybe we should ask him. And, with that level of honesty and humility, and again, in that safe environment, the conversations without me being a part of it, is some of the happiest work I've done. The idea that these, the stories and times that I've heard that other people have went to other branches, unbeknownst to me, to work together on social media and branding and strategy and scripting.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I did something about it, but more importantly, or probably more honestly, I got really, really lucky. Yeah. But to walk in the office and see 2 people that are working together for the better of one or for the better of 2, and neither one is making a profitability on the other one.
Yes.
That's a team, right? And that's to me is rowing in the right direction. And, not to get boys in the boat, but if you got 12 oars or 24 oars in the water and sink,
yep,
there's not a current you can't get through.
Well, and Ted, that was going to be my highlight of your comment, which I hope everybody heard. Collaboration is one of the massive keys to success in any business. Because, and even Ted hinted at this and shared openly about getting a coach early on, like having external feedback, accountability, collaboration are massive drivers to success. So, it cannot be overlooked. Who you're around, they're going to either make you better or make you worse.
Oh, 100%. And And unfortunately, I've been in both situations, and
Yeah,
both were my responsibility to choose to get in and choose to get out.
that's right.
The idea of not having a coach to me is bizarre. I, you know, I mean, listen, there's many reasons why people don't have one or think they don't need one or think that they're okay. And that's phenomenal. I'm not that person. Um, I don't, I don't ever want to be the smartest guy in the room ever. And fortunately for me, that's worked out 100% of the time. Right. So, you know, I know
100%.
delayed, but but having somebody that is collaborating with you on your own personal production, or when I was in a higher leadership position, I hired an executive coach from Building Champions, because I wanted to make a bigger impact at that role. And I don't need to know everything, and I don't need to be
Mm,
great at everything. I just need to know people who know that product or process
yeah,
better than me. And I need to know people that are better than me at the things that I want to be better at, and establish a rapport or pay an incentive, or you know
yeah.
trade for good, whatever that is, so that I can put myself in the best position, both for my family, but also for my team as well.
By the way, you have a fan back from the beginning saying the upfront close with Sandler is gold. So you had somebody who referenced the Sandler process.
Yes, I'm sure he's seen that. Yes, Don, I'm sure you've seen The Submarine as well, my friend. I have night terrors about it.
So on this topic of collaboration, in order
Yeah.
to drive, your effectiveness in marketing, Bruce put up a great support for you. Obviously Ted's built a great team. It's very special and rare group, but he mentioned something with diverse experiences and interests.
Yeah.
How important is diverse experience and interests in collaboration to drive new results?
Well, I mean, I don't want to use the term vital, but I think I will. Right.
Yeah,
The again, being fortunate enough to start my career in behavioral healthcare, right? Um, you were automatically forced into a divorce, a divorce. That's funny. A diverse working. I know my wife's in the other room. She's like,
what?
I'm sure she's got her lawyer on the phone. But I had the opportunity of working with many people of different ethnic backgrounds, and they all brought value of what that was, right? And that's when I was an employee to a team, and that's when I didn't have the opportunity of being a leader. And then
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to get promoted in my early 20s, and I was terrified, right? I grew up in a small town where there were three African American families. One was a banker, one was a baker, and one was a brain surgeon, and that's the truth, right? So, I didn't know that there were other stages of life and types of life, and the idea of seeing that at such a young age and finding such value in people that I could identify with on their values, and not just of their ethnic backgrounds or religion and stuff like that. It just fit. And when I walked into my first lending company in August of 2002.
Yeah.
Um, damn it, if everybody didn't look like me, and I don't know why they had a ladies' room, right? I mean,
Careful,
I
you're
think
getting
we used
close.
it.
You're
For,
getting
I think we
close to
used
the
it for.
truth.
I think we used it for storage.
Oh my God.
So a lot of the partners and the co-leaders that I've always worked with, it's typically been with women, because I want to be able to have healthy conflict moving forward of what we feel is going to be the best for the team, for that
Yeah.
person, and for ourselves. And I don't want to have the only opinion in the room.
Yeah.
And I think when you've got different backgrounds and different diversities, you're almost going to have a different contrast. And what better to go through a challenging time where people believe one another, have multiple ideas, have different types of markets, and they're bringing what's working for them to the table for others to be able to share. Like, there's
Unbelievable.
only so much you're going to get from a country club, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But right now, with interest rates slightly higher than everybody's used to, and inventory very much lower than everybody pondered, a
Yeah.
lot of the country club environment might not be looking to purchase right now. So where are we going to be able to go over and serve a community that is in desperate need of first time home buying, rather than getting murdered by rent, right?
Yep.
And I think diversity plays a part. It's a very important part of our team, and I think a lot of people are proud of it because of it.
So we've already crushed 30 minutes, Ted. So and by the way, thank you. That was a great hammer down bullet point. Let me ask you this question: Is there anything non-negotiable that the team has to do in terms of prospecting, marketing, activities, that you're kind of like, hey, you work with us, this is what we do. We call past customers, we do this, we don't abstain. Anything non-negotiable?
Yeah, and I like that idea. Ours is more on the protection side. So we're winding up the clock on more outbound sales activity calls, more asking for more appointments, more asking for more referrals. Not a matter of desperation, but certainly increasing the numbers. So if you make 30 outbounds, a day, and you're not getting the results, then so is it 60? And I think when people buy into that, and it's a hard buy-in, to say, hey, I'm going to work twice as much to make half as much.
Yeah.
But half as much is a lot better than none.
Yep.
One of the cardinal rules that I think we've always instituted is you can't poach another referral partner. So if you're going to reach out to somebody and say, hey, Ted Lawler here from Loan Depot, I understand that you've been, I looked up your stuff in Mello 360. Really would like to have an opportunity to work for you. I was introduced to you by so and so. Oh, that's fantastic. You know what? Yeah, I work with Bruce on a number of deals. So right there is an absolute pause. Hey, no worries. I'm lucky enough to be with Bruce on the same team. I cannot tell you that you're in the best hands in the world. Selfishly, If it wasn't for me doing loans, he would be my guy as well. So rather than negatively impacting that relationship, you actually bridge it, you fortify it, and you strengthen it. So now we've got people on the team that may accidentally step on somebody's toes, but the end result is that the relationship that you had with that relationship that the other loan officer had with that referral partner is now even stronger.
Hey, you said something I want you to go expand upon. You said that you're, which I agree, you're ramping up your prospecting activities, ramping up the outbounds, ramping up the asking for business. What does that look like for an individual? How about outbound calls? What are they doing?
Well, I mean, we've with a few of us. Andy Shearer, who's a local coach, he owns Pillar 9. He and I developed in the spring of 2020 a KPI indicator.
Okay.
It's a Google sheet. So, again, no genius here.
Yeah, no, just getting the work in.
But, what it does is, when you have a Google Live sheet, it allows you to go in, and it's a breakdown of, for me, it is new realtors per week, new loan offers per week, 60 conversations, 10 leads coming in, referrals going out, 10 approvals per week, and 5 deals per week. And appointments are appointments, and everything is on there. So my goal by Tuesday is to have 75% of my entire week complete. My normal week. And then behind that as well. So when we have those, so that actually is a former Sandler approach, where it is 100 outbound activities. So that's call, text, or sell. Of that, there's going to be 60 to 75 conversations.
Yeah.
Right. With that, there is going to be X amount of credit pulls. There's going to be X amount of pre-approvals. There's going to be, it's pushing that down the lane. You throw in video, you throw in branding, you throw in thank you notes. So for me, it's all about stats. I'll go on my second rant. I can't believe I've only had 2. This is amazing, even for me. My wife's
doing good, dude.
So years ago, when the British cycling team for lacrosse, they won it one year, and they didn't win it for God knows how long, and they were looking to medal for the second year, right? And there's 21 stages to the tour, right? And 20 really count, or 23, or but whatever. But of them, the last days just don't kill the guy in yellow, and we'll call it quits, right? And they said all we have to do is improve. If everybody has to improve 1% each day or each
Yep.
race. Bike's got to be 1% lighter. Person's got to be 1% lighter. We have to have
Yep.
1% better hydrating. And and there's this massive team that goes on with a cycle team, and they abolished everybody else because the idea was we just have to do something better 1% each day. And if you think about it, right, it's that's 365% in 1 year. Like we have a
Massive.
tagline on our group that I've inherited for a last couple of teams, and it's one more, right? So when you quit, one more call. When you're done for the day, one more. If you're gonna if you're gonna hang it in, get one more outbound, get one more of those, and those really add up. And I think when you know the odds and you start playing them in your favor, and then you start believing them, that's when the house doesn't always win. You can I believe you can take Vegas, right? Like I really do, because you're working it like they are. Again, when you go from an individual lender to running the Ward Curlin Corporation, right? That's a different approach. There's amount of wattage that's got to come in the front door, and that's going to allow the results from the back door.
So Shad put another great comment in here. Obviously, he's been on your team, but has no regrets, loves you. Here's something I like here. LOs have the freedom to put in what they like regarding output. However, it is made clear that you'll get what you put out. So did you say that some of the originators are making 100 outbound prospecting activities a week?
Weekly. Yeah.
That's the goal. 100 a week.
Well, that's the goal if they want it to be the goal. Right.
That's right. I'm in.
Yeah. For me, depending on when I do a look back, and I can do a week look back or a mid-month look back or a quarter. If I don't like the return that it's getting.
Yeah.
Right. Then I've got 3 choices. Right. I can rev up the motor more. Usually what we do is, our kids are older now, excuse me. But when they were younger, we would kind of talk about, all right, what kind of year do we want to have? What do we want to do? Where do we want to go? And what does that look like? And all right, so then is everybody okay that at times when we're at Universal, I may have to step away and take a call.
Yep.
And when you get everybody's buying on that stuff, but even recently, I wasn't happy with my fourth quarter results.
Yeah.
Right now, half of me, my half brain said, you know what, this is part of the market. This is what's going to happen. What do you expect? And there weren't excuses, but there were reasons. But just because there are reasons doesn't mean that I have to agree. I don't have to permit them to F up this quarter.
That's right.
Right. And a lot of the colleagues that I'm fortunate enough, to collaborate here, not to call out Jamie Tyndall, but you look at the attitude that she's bringing on branding and about how she's just a driving force, and that's a cognitive decision.
Yep.
Shad, who's, my man, the activities that he's doing on social media and coming much more from therapeutic relief on, you can see by the communication, it's nothing but like care, like, hey, like, listen, we're going to, make sure that you take care of yourself while you're grinding, it's going to be that. But there are reasons why volume is down, but I believe that you can also have the power to be less impacted by them if you want to be.
Dude, I love that. And Ken, dude, thanks for chiming in today, buddy. I love seeing you out there. He talks, continue to keep the positive mindset and do something uncomfortable every day. And I agree, man. The more you focus on things are things, the market is the market. There's nothing you're going to do to move that, but you can choose to see the positive and attack that side, or you can choose to get beaten up and see that side. And I completely agree, dude.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've been very fortunate in a very short time to meet some fantastic people in and outside the lending and real estate community that I wouldn't have had the opportunity before. Either I was too busy, they were too busy, they were too important. I had no self-esteem. Like, I don't know, whatever that it was, but but it's having the cognitive power to be able to change lanes. It is really exciting still at my age.
Yeah.
I love the fight, which it's going to kill me, but you know, it is what it is. Something's gotta. But the idea is, I don't, you know, I mean, it's, you know, I'm an endurance junkie. Like I
Yeah.
like thinking that there's not another, that it's over. There's not another level, and then all of a sudden there is. And I think that gravitation to the odds are against you. What does that mean? And you know, having people that believe in the same manner. And listen, there's been some serious talks and some serious talks off a cliff. Like I don't have it today. I'm
Yeah.
not certain how long I can do this.
I get it.
And I have so much respect and admiration for somebody that has the courage to acknowledge that, because you know,
Yeah.
if you don't have the courage to acknowledge it, please don't tell me you haven't thought it.
Yeah.
This is a tough fight,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
I just think we're going to win.
That's right. Well, so Ted, let me take it here for the last few minutes we got together. What words of advice do you have for somebody that I'll paint this picture, okay? And it's many people in the industry today. Huge record years, huge growth for a lot of loan officers. They expanded relationship, got more loans, did a bunch of business, and then now hit the down cycle. Many of them have never gone through a down cycle, so I want to put that as a little asterisk because that's important. No perspective. I don't know, it's going down. And what they've been working on isn't working to the degree as this market to what they had. So what advice do you have for them? How do they navigate these waters?
Well, I mean, I think there's always strength in numbers. And I think the idea is, I think a lot of us for the past 36 months, we're either asked to go to an island such as your home, right? Or,
Yep.
And you had to stay there. And the idea of, and I think when things in lending, or let's just say in professional sales, are really, really tough.
Yeah.
It's really hard not to have those temporary moments of desperation, but it's harder to have them if you're with people that are focused on getting it through. And I mean, listen, I'm listen, as a former group therapist, right? Like, I mean, Jesus, this is, I just, if I could just charge everybody, right? But I think, but I think the whole important thing is, when we typically celebrate things, it's usually with people that we love and respect,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when some of the most challenging and daunting times that I've experienced, and and just like everybody else, you got enough rings on the tree, you're going to experience blunt force trauma.
Yeah.
And the idea, and I reflect on those moments a lot. And of course, there was periods of isolation and thinking it through, but the healing and the work that gets into it, it's the strength of the group and the strength of the team that goes through. Football, right? 11 people on the field, right? Same thing. There's so many, I think, groups and out there, whether you're a broker or you've got a team, or my God, what Lisa has done with the Kickstarter groups every morning.
Yep.
There's 125 people strong going over best practices every single day.
Yep.
This kind of collaboration, it's not new, but it's new to our industry. And I like I like the humanistic effect of what our industry is doing. And it's not, listen, again, it's not that it's not tough, but the idea of having others and going in that direction and having the courage to be vulnerable, asking like, I've never done this product before. How does that work?
Yep.
I've never had to ask for business before. How does that work? I don't understand what lead conversion does. And how is that person so great on it? And I can't take a phone call without throwing up in my mouth.
Yep.
Like, the courage starts with the question, and then the solution starts with the answer, and then the strategy. And you're going to have people such as yourself that are going to pay it back and say, hey, this is what I did and this is why. This might be helpful. But the person's got to come to the environment that a person like you is in, right? In order for you to express their thoughts. Like, I've done it with you as well. Like, hey, I'm stuck here, and you didn't know me from Adam. And you're like, well, and again, and I've found people in both of my careers as well as my family that have been there when I've had the courage to ask that question. And I think, and I'm fortunate enough to now be lucky enough to be in that seat to be able to offer that to others. But it's a collaboration. It's not a know-it-all.
Yeah, Ted, I just want to bullet point a couple things for everybody that's this as we kind of wrap down. Some of the stuff you said today was deeply important to people's perspective. And this concept that you ended with on collaboration, I just could not agree more. I think that we're better together. And I think that there's components to that. So for those of you listening and you're like, oh, finding the right environment is crucial to your success. I mean, Ted repeated this over and over again. Who you work with matters, who you are around matters, their positivity, their energy, their ideas, their diversity, their thought process. Like that is going to raise the boats, that's going to raise the waterline, so to speak. And you have control over that. Every day you wake up, you control what you put in your mouth and what you put in your eyes. And I also want to layer that in with social media.
Absolutely.
What you put in front of your face every day, you're consuming. And so I can't tell you how many people, and this is me ranting a little bit, Ted, but how many people get on social and like, I hate social media. And I'm like, you chose those people to you pick them and put them in front of your eyeballs, and you're block them, move on, find great community on these platforms. And then for all the other great originators out there, so Ted, let me ask you this as a final question.
Sure.
How important is physical proximity to the collaboration? Because we've been in Zoom land forever, and we learned some things. So I'm curious for your take on that as we kind of close up here.
I love the physicality of our team. It's different, right? It's different now than it used to be. That's not bad or good. It's just different.
Yep.
COVID was that was a time warp that, I'd like to put a stick in it long before it was over. Because I struggle with that because I also don't like isolation. And when I don't think I'm doing a good job at my job, that's a bad place for me, because being a supportive leader and helping people discovering their goals and finding that stuff. It takes a lot of effort and it's important to me. So we have a monthly team meeting, the first full week, the Wednesday of the first full week of every month on a Wednesday at 11. And none of our meetings are mandatory. Nothing is required in person, because now we've got a pretty good size where people could be anywhere from, a couple miles away from an office or 60 or 70, but what's wonderful about the team is that usually 95% of the people are coming. And what's nice about that day is I got to get a lot done Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Friday, because it's all FaceTime, and it's the best day of my month. Right. And the meeting is, God help them. They have to hear me just babble for 60 minutes. If anybody's still on here, I'll send you $1. But it's looking to see how the other loan officers are building intimacy and rapport with each other. I can't tell you what that's done. And then, you can't apply pressure. You can pull someone aside and say, I need more from you, because you're going to want more out of this. And when there's that genuine trust level that's established and not threatened, and the idea of, like, one of the greatest things is that when somebody else is having a great run, regardless of how the other person is performing right now, the level of cheer and success that they're expressing to the person who's doing well, it's daunting. And I'm a, exclamation point, rah, rah, cheerleader like anybody else, but these aren't coming from me. So I think at any time that people can, because, selfishly, I have, knock on wood, I'm lucky enough to have a great relationship with each person that I support one-to-one. But that's not my job. My job, if you want to really build a culturally driven team where there's unconditional trust and collaboration and safety, then the leader's got to get the hell out of the box. And I'd rather be much behind these people than in front of them.
Ted, dude, thank you for spending almost an hour with me today, man. Like, the stuff that you talked about today, I cannot wait to clip it up and get it out to the community. It really shined a big light into how to win in this market. And I think the core of it is just be together with great people, find great people, collaborate.
Yeah, man, you gotta, Alec, I'll tell you, and again, right back at you, the work the work that you and the executive leadership are teaching, and again, for those that aren't at Loan Depot, a few of us had the opportunity of going to a leadership summit a few weeks back, and a lot of this stuff is economic vomit, right? And again, the humanization of what that and the collaboration that I had with other leaders, it was so needed.
Yeah.
And to be able to come back and have our team that was so interested in hearing how it went, and us just to unload on what the outlook looks like, and what the outlook can look like sooner than later.
Yep.
And I don't know. I love the tough victories a lot more than the easy ones, man.
That is the moment of the day, dude. The tough victories are always better. Ted, thanks for hanging with me. Hang with me a few minutes after the claps here, when I close it down. And everybody else, thanks for joining us on the Modeling Podcast, and we'll see you soon.